Welcome out, everybody, to the Alien Romulus spoiler cast. It's me, Sean, and Grayson here on Carnage Candy.
Hello! We're super excited to be talking about one of our most anticipated movies of this year. And
It's going to be okay.
we're talking about Alien Romulus today. And as you can tell, we were pretty big fans of it.
I like it a lot. I want to see it again. Oh, man. It was so good. We have our review up. You can go check that out right here if you want to go watch what our Grace and I's spoiler-free thoughts. Otherwise, we're going to spoil the ever-living crap out of Alien Romulus and talk about the whole thing beginning to end.
Yeah, so just one more thing. It is a spoiler cast. So if you are watching this and you have not seen the movie yet, please go watch the movie before you watch this because we're about to go in deep on this.
Mm-hmm. So, Alien Romulus begins deep on a horrible planet. And guess what, Grayson?
What's that?
That universe, even though you had never seen what a city was like in the Alien universe, felt exactly what I thought it would feel like.
I saw it and I was like, I've seen this before. I've seen what a Weyland-Yutani planet would look like. And then I thought about it and I went, huh.
I haven't.
I guess you haven't, really. I mean, they've kind of talked about it, but that's about it.
I guess we should start before that, though.
Yeah, because the opening of the film is actually really cool. They did a really great idea of, it starts off in space, like always, and it's quiet.
It is so quiet.
It is extremely quiet the whole time.
I was like, because they do this cool panning shot with zero sound. It's almost like they pulled the sound out of the theater and they pan in on that window, and I'm like, something's about to kill me.
Yeah.
And I just thought, Fetty's gonna get me.
Which was a great idea to get you prepared for what the film is going to be. There's a lot of tricks during this movie, but this was definitely one of the best ones. So you see the ship, you see in the window, you see a computer kick on saying that, the package is there for them to pick up. Lights come on in space, and it's like, oh, this is really cool. Like, it's dark out there, so you got to turn on the lights to see where you're going. And then you see this big meteor that the ship grabs.
I think that intro scene does such a great job of, like, it's almost like a way to assure the viewer that it's like, hey, we worked really hard on this production design. Especially watching Alien with Chelsea before this all started, how much time they spend to show the ship in the hallways in Alien. It was like, from the beginning, it was like, hey, we're going to take care of you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
We built all this shit so you could see, like, a real production design. And so the ship scoops up that meteor, excuse me.
Yes, it does. So it puts this meteor in there, and you're wondering, like, what is this? Is this just like a piece of ship? What's going on? Then you have all these guys that kind of show up in these yellow suits, and there's this big, like, medical lab that they're in, and they start prying open the little meteor that they have, and then they escort this thing out, and then the camera starts panning up and back, and that's whenever you realize that inside the meteor
it's like
was an alien,
fossilized xenomorph.
Yes.
They use that silhouette.
It's so cool.
Yeah. And you see in the wreckage when they're picking it up, you see the Nostromo logo. You see like NOSTRO.
Oh, was it there?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. I thought it was saying, because I saw the letters on it, but it cut so quick that I didn't pick it up.
It says like NOSTRO. Like you can see the word. So it's definitely the wreckage of the explosion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like they of course, like they've gotten the original xenomorph and brought him on board. And everything goes right for them. So whenever we go down to the city to meet Rain, our lead character, who's played by Kaylee Spaney. She was Priscilla, and she's in that Civil War movie.
Yep.
I haven't seen her. I haven't seen either of those yet. But she was awesome, of course. And man, that Weyland-Yutani colony was amazing to look at.
So you see her, and then you see what is probably the best character of the whole movie with her as well.
Andy.
You meet Andy.
Oh, my God.
And I cannot tell you how big of a fan I am of Andy and the actor. Like, this guy kills it the whole movie. Every time he comes on the screen, I don't want him to go away.
Yeah, and since they use like that kind of chip functionality throughout the movie, he gets to play multiple androids. He must have had such a good time. And it was like, it was such a fresh take because Chelsea leaned over to me and she goes, "This is what they're going to do. they're gonna make us love him, and then we're gonna hate him.
Yeah.
And you do, and it's awesome.
So you end up finding out that Rain, our main character, has Andy with her because her parents had died, and before her father died, the father programmed Andy to take care of Rain.
Mm-hmm.
So Rain sees Andy as like a brother, and that's their little family. So you have that going on, and it starts off with her trying to get off of this horrible mining planet that she's on, and she's worked all these hours to get off. And when she tries to get off,
they up her fucking quota.
Right there, live on the screen, they show it kick up.
Yeah, and it's like, it does such a great job of showing how Weyland-Yutani has basically imprisoned this entire society on the colony, right? And there's like 3 Easter eggs from the beginning with the little chicken water bobber, and then the bar sign in the background. It's an identical bar sign to a bar in the background on Aliens. When they first storm LV-426, they use the same neon bar marquee.
That's smart.
And it's immediately so familiar, and it's muddy and cloudy and brown, and everybody's coughing.
It felt a lot like Blade Runner to me.
Yeah.
Like whenever I saw the planet, like, Blade Runner's not that cloudy and everything, but it gave me like a big like Blade Runner feel to it.
Yeah, and the buildings felt like lived in, and like while they're driving around, they had all these crazy little trucks and stuff. Yeah. I was like, man, this is amazing.
Really cool set design throughout that.
But obviously, you find out that Rain is friends with this ragtag bunch of young people, and they're trying to get to a vacation planet where there's still a sun, understanding they're enslaved by Weyland-Yutani. So they say, Rain, we're going to go storm this ship that is floating above the planet and get on board and steal some of the cryotubes so that they can sleep for 9 years and then travel to this planet and escape and make a new life for themselves. The kicker is they have to have Andy, Rain's android brother, use his Weyland-Yutani protocols to get access to the Romulus ship. And so quickly they get up there. It moves really fast in that, like, they don't take too much time to explain it. They're like, hey, we got to go. We're going to go do it.
Yeah.
And then they're taking off.
Yeah, they kind of, the cool thing that they do is as soon as you find out what the mission is, that's when they start like really showing you off who the crew is. They don't give you a ton of time, like kind of introducing who they each are, but they give you enough time to become attached to them, which I really appreciate. You've got your standard like commander of the ship, which is like the quote unquote hero of the ship,
and love interest.
You've got the love interest,
Tyler, and then Bjorn is like this asshole who's like really prejudiced against Andy because a synthetic had allowed his mother to die. David Johnson plays Andy. Isabella Merced plays Kay, who we quickly find out has an issue of her own that she's going to have to deal with. And then Eileen Wu is Navarro, who is the pilot.
Yes.
Who has the face hugger on her face from all of the promotional material. So as we're going, we find out that Kay is pregnant. And if you're familiar with Aliens, no matter what, the forced pregnancy, kind of like this sexual assaulty, invasive feeling permeates every Alien movie. So immediately, you find out that Isabella or Kay is pregnant, and you're like, even though it's definitely from a human, you're like, oh no.
Seeing as who the director is of this film, as soon as I saw that she was pregnant, I went, here we go.
Yeah.
We about to get some interesting stuff going on.
And like I said, Chelsea, who had never watched these, she was like, She goes,
I think that's everybody's response.
Because Chelsea knows Chelsea knows if it's an alien movie, something's gonna come out of her.
Yep.
Whether she's 2 weeks pregnant or not, something's coming out. But that's what I was saying. I say this in our review that like Fetty sets up all these timers, right? So this is one of the timers he sets up. As an audience member, you're like, cool, that baby's coming out by the end of the movie. I'm terrified of how it's going to happen.
Yeah, I think the first timer that they have is they have to get in and out within 36 hours, if I remember correctly. That is their first time period that they have.
That is the other timer. There's a big asteroid belt circling the planet, and the space station Romulus is slowly going into it. Dude, I thought that the asteroid belt was amazing looking.
It does look really good in the film.
Because
Like, very good.
They treat it like a sandpaper shredder treadmill thing rather than like dangerous rocks.
Yes.
And the way that they film it was just awesome. So, man, did Tiff say anything in theaters when Kay was like, "I'm pregnant"?
She sighed. Tiff is my girlfriend, in case y'all don't know. I had just introduced her to the Alien films before we got to the point of seeing this. So she was, just like Sean was saying with Chelsea, was very informed on what was going to end up happening. And as soon as she threw up, she just went, she's pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as, because Kate throws up on the ship because you think she's, she gets sick and it's because she's pregnant. But, all right. So we get on the ship. Guess what? It looks amazing. Just like in the beginning, the production design's awesome and all that. And we kind of find out how Andy's protocol works. He sticks his fingers into the door slots. And nobody's there. Nobody's on the ship.
Nobody that they can see at the moment, for sure. So they enter through this like tunnel. And the cool thing about when they're going through the tunnel is they show this rat floating the whole time, and you're like, oh man, this is gonna be kind of neat because they're gonna do anti-gravity, and then it hits the ground, and then this is whenever they start talking about the gravity aspect of the ship and how it's keeping them from
teaching that viewer about the rules of the ship.
Yes,
it's so good.
Yes, and it's really cool how they do that. So as Sean was saying, they're on there. There's nobody around, but they find the pods. And whenever they go up to the pods is
the cryopods, to be specific, not the alien pods.
Yeah, because there are alien pods as well. Whenever they go up to it, they realize that there's not enough fuel in them to get them to 9 years. I think as it's stated on like the container, it's like 3.6 or something like that years.
So
it's not enough time.
They won't be able to make the sleep. Yeah.
So they have to figure out something else to do to help get more time on those containers.
They basically go get more cold batteries. And in the cold battery storage, you find out that Weyland-Yutani, instead of like eggs, they have basically turned the face huggers into like pill pockets for transport. They've basically saran wrapped like 20 face huggers, and they're keeping them in the cold storage where the cryo tube batteries are.
Yeah. So before that happens, though, they actually go into that room and they find another synthetic.
Yeah.
That is on the ground, and there's this big hole burnt in the floor.
Yeah, one of the acid trails.
So, yeah, which helps them kind of navigate through to get to where Sean was just talking about with all the face huggers, to kind of be like, okay, we know why everybody's gone right now.
Dude, when that synthetic comes alive, Chelsea jumped so bad in theaters. Her whole legs kicked up in the air and she like lurched.
All three of us saw her do it. Like all at the same time. Like all three of us were like, whoa.
Yeah. It was hilarious. But she was freaking out. But the face huggers get out, and the issue is this android that's on the ground, Andy doesn't have access. So they take the memory chip out of the Weyland-Yutani android and they stick it in Andy's head so he can access the doors. And the facehuggers attack, and they're beating him, hitting him with the shock sticks and trying not to get sucked in the face. And we find out that Andy kind of fixes himself because he's getting a new brain, basically.
Yeah, he reboots, so now he has all the information from the other android to help him kind of understand what's going on. And as soon as he kicks on, he is just in immediate like defense mode. So he like grabs a face hugger out of the air and throws it against the wall.
Awesome.
It's really good. This whole scene with the face huggers might be like one of my favorite face hugger scenes in any Alien film.
Yeah,
like it is very good on how they do this.
Yeah, they really make them swarm, right?
It's amazing on how many they have in there and what all is happening while the scene is going on.
Yeah. And eventually, Navarro gets hit with the face hugger. They're freaking out, trying to figure out how to fix her, and then that android that they take the memory chip out of kind of explains the situation. Turns out it's Ash. Not Ash, but the same model as Ash from the original Alien.
Yep, he's named Rook, and they even brought back Ian Holm to, I guess, do the voice and the face for this character, which you can kind of tell when you see the synthetic on the ground.
Yeah, I figured it was going to be him.
I did too.
I wish they had made like a robot prosthetic version of it, like a cast of his face instead of doing the AI.
I think that was one of my. If you've already watched like a review on it, I didn't put it at a 5. He is kind of one of my reasons why I don't have it as a 5. I do appreciate what they did with it. It is a really interesting arc that they have with Rook in this movie. But I do get taken out of the movie a lot with how many times he pops up on a monitor throughout this film.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost comedic every time he shows up.
It is.
Because of how weird the animation looks on his face.
Yeah.
But you end up finding out that they had gotten the meteor from the beginning, opened it up. It was the alien from the first movie, and they talk about the crew. And then they turn on this light, and above them, where the hole is on the ground, they have the alien that they killed.
Yeah, it was the original because it even had the same harpoon from Ripley.
It sure did.
That was all really, really sick. But let's move on. So Navarro is eventually they get the face hugger off of her. They freeze it, and it runs away.
Can I say something about that real
quick?
What? I thought it was so cool. While the face hugger was on Navarro, I guess I haven't really paid attention until now because we saw it on such a big screen. But whenever the face hugger is on Navarro, you see her like having like a panic attack, like while she's on
her labored breathing.
Yeah, you see like the labored breathing, and I don't know if I've ever noticed that or seen.
I don't think they've done it.
Yeah,
that well.
So while that's happening, it adds so much more tension to the face hugger being on Navarro's face, and it's really cool how
her chest and stomach are moving so much. But it's because the alien is pumping oxygen.
Yes.
The alien is literally inflating her lungs so she'll be able to breathe. And I thought that was such a good... it makes it grosser and more violent and shows how, like, again, that kind of like SA kind of weird sexual, like dominating thing that the face huggers are all about. And it was really disturbing. I'm glad you popped that out. But so Navarro goes back to the ship to collect the frozen pods, which he had done. And you get your chest burster scene.
Yeah, so Rook tells Andy, you got to do something. You have to stop this from happening. So Andy says some line like, I'm going to make you proud of me to Rain or something similar to that.
Yeah.
And then runs after it. You've got Bjorn, who is trying to keep Andy away because Andy thinks, or not Andy, but Bjorn thinks that Andy is going to kill Navarro.
Because Bjorn is a
he
racist
hates
against synthetics, yeah.
So you had this really cool chase scene, and then you have Andy back with Rain and Tyler, and then it cuts back over to Navarro.
and it's weird how refreshing like a take can be when the conversation was clearly that an alien embryo, a xenomorph embryo, they definitely said to each other when they were making the production, an alien would not be able to explode out of a chest the way that it does in Alien or Aliens with the girl that's cocooned.
Or Resurrection.
Yeah, or Resurrection, right? It cannot explode. It doesn't make any sense, right? So what they do is almost worse.
Yeah.
The only reason it's not worse is because I'm nostalgic for the other ones, right? So instead of like exploding out of the chest, the alien clearly just breaks the ribs painfully and terribly. And then as the sternum cracks open like this, right? And the xenomorph kind of pushes his head out laterally. Instead of it blowing like this, it like goes, and then the chest burster kind of slithers out.
That is one of my favorite parts of that whole situation, is seeing it just kind of like force its way out, being like, hey, what's up? I'm here finally.
Yeah.
And not just like, yeah.
Yeah, instead of going, it's just that slow breaking of her, I don't know what bone you call that. Clavicle bone? Is that clavicle? I don't know, Grace.
I don't know, but they made it sound gross and crunchy, and I loved it.
Yeah, and I just loved how it was like it was fighting its way out of the chest instead of just blowing out of a hole and being like, hey! But Kay is on the ship with Navarro when the chest burst happens, and then their shuttle ship that they used to get to the Romulus kind of crashes into the hangar bay. All the effects of the ship crashings were amazing.
They did. There's a lot of stuff going on the ship. You've got Navarro, who before she has the thing go through her, they have these like X-ray like batons, and she scans herself, and that's whenever you can see like the chest burster in her chest.
That was awesome.
You've got, Kay, who's just waking up, not knowing what's going on. Bjorn's down in like the bottom of the ship. So much chaos is going, crashes into the hole. Everybody's unconscious, and it just gets awesome from here on out.
Yeah, so this is kind of like where things start accelerating. Andy and Tyler and Rain are back on the Romulus trying to figure shit out. The face huggers are kind of like this really cool environmental obstacle, because now the three characters on the Romulus have to make their way to the other side. And they have this cool kind of explanation. Andy says that the face huggers read body heat or body temperature and sound. And so what they do is those face huggers, man, and it kind of reminded me of like Ravenholm and Half-Life, because some of them were darker.
I was gonna bring that up. I love the fact that they made them darker in this film than they're normally like kind of tan, like a brightish tan looking color. In this one, there's some really like dark ones, and they have like a lot of articulation in their tails in this one. Like they'll pop it up like a scorpion. It's so cool.
Did you appreciate it more that you could tell that like their legs were kind of remote control?
Yes.
The spiders in Jumanji?
Yes, I did. I appreciated that a lot in this film. They're the star of the movie.
Yeah.
Like they are. This is very much a face hugger movie.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of cool set pieces with the face huggers, them working their way through that room. And then they kind of have to deal with the fact that Kay is now trying to escape a very terrible situation. So as their shuttle ship crashes, it turns out that, so what happened? I forget the order. So we get information while they're making their way through the facehugger alley, basically.
Yeah.
Bjorn and Kay are dealing with the fact that the xenomorph has now grown almost immediately, and we finally figure out why it can go from a snake to a creature so fast.
I said to myself during this film, finally. And they might have done it, and I've never noticed it, but I've always wondered what happened from chestburster to, I guess, drone is technically what they are.
Yeah, drone alien, yeah.
And they show it in this film, and it is awesome how they do this.
They have such a vaginal-looking pod. And the xenomorph has cocooned itself up in the wall of the ship, and it's dripping.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bjorn makes that terrible. He shoves the electricity into the pod to kill the drone inside, not knowing that the acid damage would bust up his pod, and then he gets all messed up. He falls down. The pod drips acid all over him.
He falls because he gets stabbed in the face with a tail.
Oh yeah, it kind of comes out.
The alien like pops out its tail for a little bit and then goes click and hits him, and he falls down, and that's whenever the acid drips down on him.
Yeah.
And it's smart how they did it, because it's not like ultra gory on how they did it, but it's good enough to make the imagination work to where you would understand how bad it is to have acid hit your body that much.
Yeah, that's one of those situations where like you would think that Fetty would like really indulge himself with like the terrible violence of acid falling all over your body, but he has some self-restraint. I think it's because we had just got where we're getting the chest burster too around the same time. Yeah. But yeah, that cocoon phase was really cool, because they always just kind of glance over the fact that, yes, the chest burster sheds its skin, but like, how does it get to be 8 feet tall so fast?
Yeah.
And, that cocoon is obviously like really transformative. But here comes my favorite part of the movie. Kay is in the ship trying to get away from the xenomorph. She escapes into the cargo hold, and we get that scene where Kay is beating on the door, and then Rain, Andy, and Tyler are on the other side. And just like Bjorn's mom, Andy calculates the survival risk if he opens the door, and he doesn't let Kay out.
Yeah, he says something like it's waiting for us to open this door. It knows.
Yeah.
Like it's planning on us opening this up. And it's cool because you can see it in the background behind Kay as well. It's really neat.
Xenomorph's just lurking. And they get pissed and then Kay gets snatched up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like she hasn't had the baby yet, so you know she's coming back.
Yeah, they were very smart to be like, come on, you know what's gonna happen.
Yeah. I think when she got snatched, I was like, okay, she'll be back. Which just elevate, because if you know the universe, it just elevates because you're like, there's a cocoon system in here somewhere.
Yeah.
And you're thinking, where are all the science? Where's the you're thinking the whole time, where's the crew? And the fact that she just gets plucked, if Fetty's killing somebody, he's gonna kill him.
Yeah.
He's gonna show their heads getting chewed off and shit. So later you've got a surprise coming.
Yep.
Right.
So the other neat thing that's happening right now is every choice that Andy has made, Rain has just been traumatized by, because she knows who Andy is because she's been around all of her life. But Andy is making these calculated decisions that he never made before. So it's giving you that feel of like, you feel so bad for Rain and you just want Andy to kick back into where he was.
Yeah, Andy goes from being on the spectrum and having difficulty with like simple tasks and to being no nonsense, hardcore, calculated, and completely in control of motor function. Yeah. Because Rain's typical Andy definitely has some kind of computation errors.
Well, they
control his hands and stuff.
They make a comment early on in the movie about how Rain's dad found him in like a dumpster and kind of repurposed him to be like a helper around the house.
Yeah. So Kay is snatched, Bjorn's acided, Navarro's chest is bursted out of, and the Rook, Ian Holmes' character, has basically given Andy a mission, and Andy's going to follow it, period.
Not only is it a mission, it's the mission of Aliens.
And Alien.
Yes, I'm talking about all Alien movies. Like, it's the Weyland-Yutani mission.
Yeah. And now Andy's got it, our little guy that could.
Yeah.
And we get a scene that makes Prometheus a better movie again. Every time a new Alien comes out, Prometheus gets better. Are you kidding me? So they go into the science lab and there's black goo floating around.
And it's awesome.
Yeah, and then there's the vase system that they use. And you find out that, they got the goo off of the planet in Prometheus, and here it is.
Yep.
I don't know if it's off the planet Prometheus, but they
figured out how to extract it, is what they did.
From the xenomorph, because obviously, I hope Chelsea's not watching, but obviously in Covenant, aliens are there too. So they've got the goo from Prometheus. Once again, valid. Like, if you went back and watched Prometheus now, people would have to call it like a solid 8 or 9. Yeah. They would have to, because all of their answers are now here.
Yeah.
But I was just like, oh, yes, I can watch Prometheus again and love it even more. But it's basically a symbiote from Spider-Man, the black goo.
It is.
Makes everything worse.
Yeah, they show, like, there's a really horrible scene of a mouse getting squished.
Yeah.
And then they inject the goo into it, and you see it rebuild itself.
Yeah. So they say, like, hey, this shit can rebuild human metabolism, and it's finally revealed that Weyland-Yutani wants the xenomorph because people can't live long enough on their planets because there's no sun and it's terrible and the conditions are terrible. But they can upgrade the human race with this genome to enslave them longer, fundamentally, and inhabit more planets and make it easier to terraform and grow the corporation. When I was watching it, I was totally aware of how amazing it was to know, because even rewatching Alien 3, it's like, think about what this species could mean. And I was just always like, what are they going to do? Send it against other people that they're fighting against? Like, what's the big deal? But just to finally get a stated reason. Did you love it?
Yeah, it finally makes sense on what he's been trying to do for 40 years. Like, being able to get that answer and to do it in such a really cool way. Like, if you're an Alien fan, you can't help but just love this scene. Like, it's such it's such like a awesome nerd thing to know.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a big Alien fan, you're like, oh yes, finally.
It kind of makes me wish I was like 50 or 60, so I could know what it was like to like be 12 years old watching Alien.
Yeah.
Back in like 79,
Yeah.
and then no. But so we know that the alien genome fixes metabolisms and metabolic rates. Then Tyler teaches our girl Rain how to use a gun with this really cool targeting system.
Yeah,
that auto targets
the Marines pulse rifle basically, but it's an earlier model and it looks really cool. And we find out it has 400 rounds.
Yeah.
Per like magazine. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. And we get our third time bomb.
Yeah.
It's revealed as they're leaving the room. Andy gets that symbiote because Andy's doing his job.
Yep.
What's best for the company, and he's taking the symbiote out. It's then revealed that the rat turned into an alien.
In such a cool way too.
Yeah.
The slow pan, because you don't even, it's so cool because if you think about it, you're like, how did they not notice? But I didn't notice either.
Yeah.
So they do this slow pan as they're walking out of the room and you're just stuck on this like black goo and it slowly moves over and you're like, oh man, there's some white fur in that. And then it goes over. You're like, oh no, it turns them into aliens.
Yeah. So homegirl's pregnant.
Yep.
The ship's going to crash.
Yes.
They've got injectors that turn people into aliens.
They sure do.
It's so stacked with the tension. So, as they're leaving, they're taking a shortcut to get back to the ship, and we get the resin walls,
which I didn't think we were going to get, because at this point in time, we're in like an hour and 40 minutes of this film.
Well, I think the movie's about to be over.
Yeah. How long is this movie? How long is it?
Let's take a look at.
Let's double check this, because I feel like the movie felt like it was like an hour and a half. Let's see how long this thing was. But it is going by so fast, and I'm to the point.
It's only 2 hours.
Oh, it's only 2 hours? Okay.
Jesus.
So yeah, we were probably about an hour and a half, about an hour and 35. But you finally see it, and I'm like, oh, thank goodness they're going to show this off. This is so cool.
Yeah, because again, like we're just waiting to find out what happens to the colonists.
Yeah.
And I think what I said in the review was like Fetty does third acts the best.
Yeah.
And it is like he must have something really special saved for us. And we find out that there's a nest. They very intelligently are like, we're not going through it. We're leaving. And Andy is like, okay.
It's a good idea. I think he says good idea or something like that. I can't remember. I've only watched the film once, so I haven't been able to really dig into it. But I think it's something to like good idea to turn around.
So they don't go through the alien walls where there's clearly more xenomorphs. But right when they turn around, you hear Kay yell for help to her brother and her friends. And it's like, it is so, I was just like, we are so back.
Yep.
I was like, we are going in. I think I would put Kay's plea for help up there with like the first time you realize in Evil Dead that the demon version of her has split off into something else.
Oh, yeah.
I think that sense of like, oh, man, this sucks.
Yes.
So they're going after her. Our boy, Andy, gets knocked down, unconscious. Tyler, unfortunately, gets killed.
He sacrifices himself. He saves Rain because there's an alien that comes down and is about to strike Rain with the tail, and he jumps in front of her.
The way the tails lift, and I never really thought of it like this, but they do a really good job of showing like the aliens consider their tails harpoons to lift people into.
Smart.
Yeah. I thought that was even though I've seen every movie 100 times, I've never really considered that the aliens' goal is to stay on the walls, stab people, and reel them up to the ceiling to cocoon them. And I thought that was really cool that was demonstrated. But Tyler goes down, and Rain is saving Kay. They're going up the elevator shaft. Kay grabs the specimen that Wayland Yutani was after with the black goo inside, and they leave. And then they escape, and then the movie.
That's all it is.
Yeah, it was great. 10 out of 10.
Except that's not what happens at all. Because while they're on the elevator, Rain realizes, I can't leave Andy behind. Stops the elevator, tells Kay, get up to the ship and get out of here. I'll find a way out.
And more importantly, realizes that Andy is knocked the fuck out so she can put his old chip in for the first time.
To get her brother back.
Yeah, get her brother back.
To get her brother back. So you're definitely in the, okay, Rain's about to turn into Ripley moment of going back down into the den of the aliens.
Get the big callback with the elevator and the flashing lights and the pulse rifle. Very clearly a callback. And she goes back down there and plugs in Andy, saves the day. Here come the xenomorphs. But not before we see Kay up in the elevator. And she's hurting real bad. She got stabbed by an alien. And she's got some medicine. And then Grayson.
Yeah.
She hits herself with the black goo.
She sure does. And I said out loud in theaters, I went, oh no. Because the whole time I'm expecting a chest burster. Not a chest burster, but a face hugger to be like climbing up and then jump in on her or something like that.
Yeah.
As soon as she pulls it out, I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
What are we about to create here?
Yes. So, and just that pregnancy just in the back of your head the whole movie.
Yep.
And again, just another spectacular moment of just Fetty just being like, I got it, man.
Yeah, don't worry. Hey, you're in good hands.
Yeah,
don't
I'm going
sweat.
to take you.
So after that happens, we kick into my favorite movie moment. It's Kay and Andy basically realizing, Rook has screwed us over, locked down everything. We can't get out. We're stuck in this tunnel, and there are face huggers, and there are aliens coming our way. There's drones everywhere.
And the elevator's up there.
And the elevator's stuck. Can't get out. We're stuck. And that's whenever Andy makes a joke about gravity, and it kicks in the Rain's head. Okay, if this happens, and I make it to where there's no gravity, we can shoot the aliens, and their acid won't leak through the bottom of the ship and suck us all up.
Yeah, as soon as they get the pulse rifles, Andy's like, only use the pulse rifles to scare the aliens. If you shoot them, we're on the bottom floor of the station, and we'll get sucked out into outer space. It's very good at setting up its rules. Here's the gun. Don't shoot the alien or you'll die. Yeah. Right?
Use it as intimidation only.
Yes.
And it works. Like, there's a couple of scenes where she pulls the rifle up and the aliens, like, kind of stay in place and back up a little bit.
Yeah.
But they've gotten to the point now to where they know Rain's not going to shoot. But as soon as that gravity kicks off, it is amazing. She kills it's probably like 5 or 6, but it feels like she kills like 15 aliens.
I know.
There is just acid going everywhere and floating in zero gravity. She's killing face huggers, and there's just this huge spiral of acid everywhere.
The auto targeting is such an amazing way to tell the viewer, hey, it does make sense that she would be able to do this.
Yeah.
Yes, she's a miner. Who just like works in rocks at Weyland-Yutani, right? But like, not for a second was I like, why is she able to kill 15 aliens? I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. They
girl.
programmed it to. Like, she's got cheat codes. Makes sense.
She's got hacks.
Yep, exactly. So they get done. They kill all the aliens. There's all this acid going around. What you got?
When she's shooting and they turn on the anti-gravity, there's this one part where Andy just holds her down.
Oh, yeah, to like brace her to the ground.
Andy
so she
just
can't fly
puts
off.
his hand on her shoulder.
It's a smart idea
to lock her down onto the ground. Oh my God. I was like, oh, man.
It's so smart. And that comes into play right now because after they kill all the aliens and there's all the acid going around, they've got to get through to get to the elevator shaft so that they can shoot up in zero grav because they only have a certain amount of time before gravity kicks back on. So they're going through the acid tunnel, basically.
The acid is like kind of spiraling because obviously the ship is on a rotation.
Yeah, so it's going with the rotation of the ship. Yeah. So there's one point to where Rain lets go of the railing and you're like, oh no, she's about to go into the acid. And she uses the recoil of the pulse rifle to hit herself back on the ground so she's okay.
Yeah.
And then they get to the elevator shaft and they start going up, and man,
it's just like I'm already exhausted talking about the acid set piece, like, And then you get another set piece where they're climbing up the elevator shaft.
It's just a shame that you won't get more too. You know?
There's nothing more that happens after that.
Nope.
Yeah. So there's still no gravity, and they're kind of just like floating up the elevator shaft to catch up to Kai and the shuttle. And again, that callback to that rat falling.
Yep.
The gravity purge system is about to shut the gravity off for just a second.
Rain gets grabbed before she can fully go up, so she has to shoot the alien off of her so she can go up. Andy's already going.
Andy's way up at the top.
Andy's already flying. Rain is trying to catch up. Time is running out, which is another thing, like Sean said, time is a very big factor of this movie. And you see the timer go down. You see Andy reaching out. Rain starts to fall back down.
Mm-hmm. And then she gets snatched.
Yeah, she gets snatched. And it is so weird to me when this happens, because there's a part of me that was like, that is really weird for an alien to do. And at like the first thing that went through my head, I was like, did that alien just save her? And then you see Andy's up at the top looking down and sees it, and then sees the gun has wedged itself into the corner. And then you get this awesome scene, which was like, okay, this makes more sense now, of the alien holding her over to the side and getting close. And then guess what happens to show up? Our little face hugger friends just sitting there waiting. And I'm like, oh yeah, y'all can talk to each other. This makes way more sense.
It's so awesome because you're like, he saved her bullshit.
Yeah.
He's saving her for later.
Yeah, exactly. It makes perfect sense. And you're like, oh, okay. You almost had me.
I almost thought you were dumb.
Yeah.
But no, you're really smart.
Yep.
But yeah, the alien is saving her so that he can hold her out so the face hugger can put her down.
But before all that can happen, the elevator falls and you see these other aliens coming up and it just wipes them all out. And you're like, oh, that was pretty cool. It's kind of a shame that scene's over. And then guess what?
It's not.
It ain't over yet, because that alien just peeks its head around the corner. It's like, hey, we ain't done here yet.
You didn't get me.
Nope. And then that's whenever you see the facehugger explodes. And you're like, what? Our boy Andy coming down.
Coming down the shaft. He lands on the xenomorph, rides him down in zero gravity, shoots him in the head a lot. And probably the only thing Grace and I are going to disagree on happens.
Yep.
Andy says, stay away from her, you bitch. And he stutters when he says the line. I think that it works perfectly because he stutters. If he had tried to be macho about it, like, and he delivered the line cleanly, I think I would feel the exact same way Grayson probably feels about it now. I think that the protection thing and Andy, I think that line is probably the only time that Rain's Andy shows like he kind of overcomes his lack of motor control and he jokes all the time, right? So like for him to be snarky and do something badass, to me showed that he went from getting his ass kicked by a bunch of punk kids at the beginning to straight up dominating a xenomorph and then giving this one-liner and doing it his way with the stutter was okay for me.
I'm opposite. I didn't like it at all whenever he said the line. I wish he wouldn't have said anything at all and just gone back up to Rain. I don't think that line should have been used because let's be honest, Ripley did it the best. Like nobody else needs to use the line. Like you don't have to have that in it to me. And him saying it, I'm like, why you got to say this line? Like it made no sense to me on why he would say it. Like why would you call this alien a bitch? Like Ripley used it because you're going against a queen. So that makes a lot of sense. But to me, whenever he used it, it just kind of like took me out and it felt really cheesy to me. But that's just how I felt about it. I know Sean loved it.
And we know you suck, so I rule.
But yeah, I just thought that it would have been cool. Like, for me, if he would have made like a joke or something like that because of how he is, I think I would have been able to handle it a little more. than for him to say that line, or like I said, just nothing at all. Either one of those would have worked a little bit better for me, but I can understand why you would love it the way that you do too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like obsessed with it, but like, I think on subsequent rewatches, I bet you'll like it a little bit more. But you won't hate it. But you still won't like it. But you'll be more and more okay with it the more we watch it.
I don't know, because that was the first thing that I thought about whenever we left, and even on the drive home, because it was about a 30-minute drive home, and that was the main thing that I kept going back to on why, because we've already done a video about what we gave it. I gave it a 4. And that was one of my main things on it that I didn't like. It was that right there hit it. And I was like, I didn't like that much. And something else that we're going to get to here in a little bit.
Oh, no.
You'll understand where I'm coming from.
Mm-hmm. So, elevator set piece is awesome. Acid tunnel set piece is awesome. Obviously Kay's having a hard time with her overcoming of her future newborn and the symbiote in her. But they get off the ship. They escape. They get off the Romulus, and the Romulus just goes down in such a cool way.
It is really neat seeing it go into the rings and seeing it, like Sean said, it's almost like sandpaper. Like it slowly chips away everything as it goes in, and it's really cool and really well done. And it's just really good CGI.
Yes,
like,
it's going to age
good.
very well.
It will. It looks incredible the whole time you're watching it. They did a phenomenal job on that. And all the CGI in this movie is good, except for what I brought up earlier with Rook.
Oh, excuse me.
You're good.
Burping while you cut to me, dude.
I didn't know that you were about to do that. My bad.
I'm burping.
But whenever Kay is on the ship, she had gotten a call from Rook and put it into auto mode because Rook is going to control him to get out of there and set the coordinates for them to get out of there to go basically to an area where Weyland-Yutani can
take the specimen.
Can take the specimen and everything. Rain and Andy don't know this yet until they get on the ship. When they really get on the ship, they see Rook on the computer screen, and basically Rain tells Rook to go F himself. Not exactly like that, but basically tells him off.
It's very
Shuts
good.
it off, puts it back in the manual. She then tells Andy to program himself to do the best for us instead of just the best for Rain. And it is so... It is, to me, it was very emotional because you've wanted this the whole time, and just the way that the actor plays it with Andy, like you see a smile light up on his face, and you're like, man, what a great way to end this movie. And I'm so glad that they ended it right there and nothing else happened.
Nothing else happens. Nothing else could happen as they're escaping.
There's a theme here, if you can't tell.
No alien movie has them escaping without something bad going wrong at the last minute. But yeah, so Andy and Rain are about to go to paradise together, basically. Escape everything, get to their planet. But Kay, in that timer, in that pregnancy, is about to have a tough time. Rain is about to go to bed in the cryo chambers that they've robbed Weyland-Yutani of. And something goes wrong with the Kay's cryo chamber.
Yep.
And we finally get this huge payoff. And the baby's coming, even though she was not showing at all earlier in the movie. She is now clearly 15 months pregnant.
Yep.
And that belly about to pop. And she gives birth to a beautiful pod.
Yep. In a pretty, the best thing is it's not gory. It's just a lot of blood spraying.
Yeah.
So it's very well done on how they do this and the
It's not
sound
like they
design.
exploit. It's not like a birth.
Yeah.
Horror pornography type of thing. It's just legs and then this weird pod crowning. But we see Rain sees the pod crack open, and you see the embryonic sac, and you see the fetus inside, and it is extremely human.
Yeah.
It is a pale white little boy.
It almost has like the face of the engineers from Prometheus. It's like a baby face of an engineer.
So it turns out that what happened. Oh yeah,
she's running down the hallway with the sack. She has a sack in her arm, but she has like this towel that it's under, and then she realizes, oh no, there's acid coming off of this. It starts to like come through, so she drops it. It falls through the floor, and that's whenever you see it.
It's like the
bust.
birthing fluid.
Yes,
Is also acidic.
Yes.
And then it drops down into, so cleverly, a kind of like a dirt mining granule sandy
so it would
cargo.
suck up like the acid and stuff and wouldn't go straight through.
Genius.
It's very smart.
It didn't drop
Very
out
smart,
at the cargo hold. So she goes down, gets flamethrower, goes down the cargo hold.
It's not a flamethrower, it's ice. It's that
A cryo freezer.
The cryo freezer, yeah.
And the baby is already walking around. It's got weird feet too.
Yeah, so you see footprints going through, and you see it's like, oh, these are big. These are not your normal footprints that are going on here. And there's this really awesome scene of her just kind of like looking at one of them, and it's got like, you see her face and the camera's coming up like this, so you see up above her and you see something.
Yeah,
you can't
kinda
completely tell.
Around up
you
there.
see it slither, and you kind of see like a head, and then you get the reveal.
Yes. She gets back up or Andy is coming to save her in the cargo hold, and you get the reveal of, let's see what they call it here. It's called Offspring. That is how the casting lists it. Offspring is a human xenomorph hybrid, a product of her being pregnant by a human, injecting herself with a symbiote, and then giving birth to this 10-foot something white xenomorph, long-legged body, but with a human head and like engineer eyes and gross kind of xenomorph teeth, and the head proportions and the tallness of the head are strange and way better than the human hybrid from Resurrection.
Oh yeah, like that's not even a comparison.
Yeah. But I'll be honest, I loved it. When I saw it, I don't know why, but I thought Grayson is going to hate this.
I will say this. There were some scenes where I thought it looked really cool, and there were some scenes where I thought it looked really cheesy, and it didn't scare me. It just made me go, huh, what are you? Instead of like, oh my God, like terrified. So it didn't do the I'm scared of you as much as I was, well, that's interesting. You know,
I think the issue is, and I thought the same way. I was like, that's very disturbing looking. There's something very eerie about it, but it's definitely not scarier than a queen or a
not
drone.
At all.
And here's why, Grayson. Because there's no creature design scarier than a fucking xenomorph or an alien queen.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think for me, I wish it would have been in the shadows a little more.
Not so exposed?
Yeah, I wish it wouldn't have been as exposed, because it would have added more to whenever you let your imagination take over a little more, of course it's going to be more terrifying than it actually is.
Maybe underlied it a little bit.
So yeah, just a little bit more. I don't think it looked awful by any means. I did not hate it. It was definitely odd to see in like an alien film. I respect the fact that they did something unique and they changed it up a little bit, but it was definitely something that every time it was on the screen, instead of me just kind of going for the ride, I was like, do I like this or not?
Yeah, you're thinking about your own analysis rather than enjoying the movie.
I was a lot.
Yeah, I guess I thought about that too, obviously, because I was like, Grayson's gonna hate that. I don't know why. I guess it's just like a subliminal taste thing that I always think of you. I don't know when I'm watching something.
I think it's, to me, I was like, man, I just feel like there could have been a couple of more things I could have done to really kind of like push this up and give some more cool stuff too. But it's definitely like, it's an awesome start to see, where more like creativity and stuff could come from it. And, they'll probably make like figures of it, and I'll probably have one of it because it is a cool design. But it was, like I said, it just kind of like took me out a little bit. Kind of like Rook. Like Rook kind of took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah. But we have a final showdown with Rain and Offspring. So we call it, in the cargo hold in the sand. And Rain eventually gets in a spacesuit and basically drops out the cargo container.
Yeah. And she's tethered.
Yeah, and she's tethered to the ship.
She has tethered herself into the ship because you could tell that she's like, I'm going to launch this thing into space.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can get away from this thing.
Yeah.
And she has tethered herself in, and the alien is not stupid. Like, this is definitely a very, very intelligent alien, and is fighting with her the whole time. And you have this moment as they're fighting to where she thinks that the alien has gotten sucked out, and it's quiet again. You just see through her glass on her helmet, and she's climbing, and I'm like, oh man, they're really gonna not show it. And then to me, this jump scare was perfect.
Oh yeah.
It pops up, and I went, oh yeah, there we go. So that happens, and then you have the fight to get rid of it, and then God, I wish I could remember the line she says to the alien before she kicks it off, but.
Die, motherfucker.
Yeah, is it die, motherfucker? Yeah,
die, motherfucker.
And it's just so plain and blunt that I was like, that's awesome.
Yeah,
like I really appreciated that. And then you've got Rain coming back up,
and the way the cargo ship, again, just like the Romulus, hits and kind of scrapes and gets. It's kind of like when you watch a video of a toy getting held up to a belt sander. Yep. Oh my God, it's so sick.
It's
and
awesome.
You see the Romulus in the background, only getting half destroyed so far, by the way, but on fire. It's just a cool. I almost leaned over to Grayson to say this, but when she's getting pulled and the cargo drops off into the belt, and in the background you see the Romulus, that wide shot of her flying through space, I was like, that is an all-time.
Oh, it's a great shot. Like, it's a really good scene.
But the offspring is dead. We've gotten everything. At that point, I had gotten everything I wanted.
Yeah.
Right? And then, of course, we get our sign-off from Rain saying that her and Andy are now going to go into hypersleep and hopefully...
Hope for the best.
Yeah, make it to their planet.
Yeah.
I hope I never hear about Rain again.
I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I like Rain a lot. I would like to see what her and Andy do next, because... My main thing is that the information that's been given to Weyland Yutani, they're gonna want her.
Yes.
They're gonna be searching for her. So I could see how they could make a sequel from this. But no matter what, as long as we keep getting alien movies that are like Romulus, I honestly don't care who's in the film as long as they keep coming, because they're really, really good. Like this is a great film. Like, I know I've had some complaints with it, but they're not like, oh, this is a terrible movie. It's just a little bit of cheese in there. And, like I said with Rook, I wish there would have been more of like a, they made like a prosthetic for him or something. They made him look more robotic.
I think the only thing they needed to do with Rook was make a puppet.
Yeah.
Instead of the CGI. But again, there's such small complaints.
Yeah.
I feel like there's all of the great horror movies now that I see, it feels like I'm just rooting for the director and the writers. It feels like they're giving me something, and I am just wishing them the best. When I watch, I'm sure you'll see it soon. But like when I'm watching First Omen, and I'm like 30 minutes in, I'm like, you guys are doing such a great job right now. Keep it up.
Yeah.
And then it's like if I'm watching Immaculate, and I'm like, okay, you're kind of stumbling right here, but let's see if you can really stick the landing here.
Yeah.
And then in those kind of cases when they do, it's like, way to go. And this whole time you're watching Romulus, you're just like, you started off, you're like, man, Fetty loves aliens.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, Fetty knows how to make Corporation. Man, Fetty, way to make characters I care about.
Yeah.
And, every single beat, it's like, way to make the face huggers. Way to make Andy a cool character. Nice job with the acid hallway scene.
Yeah.
Way to go with that. And then while you're watching, you're like, thank you for setting that timer with the pregnancy. I can't wait to see what you do later.
Yep. Lore. Thank you for just showing all the lore you can.
Yeah.
Like, you gave me every single question that I had going into it, you answered. And that was really cool.
And then finally at the end, you're like, please do me a Jimmy Cameron, Ridley Scott awesome third act with some kind of stowaway component. And
they did.
You do. So way to go.
Mm-hmm.
This will definitely be probably in my top 10 horror movies, mostly because I don't really, I guess I don't qualify Aliens as horror too much.
Oh, I do. Like, I definitely put it in there. Like, I have to. Like, with what's going on in the movie, especially this one. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think
this definitely goes.
I mean, if Aliens with Cameron is in my top 10, I think I would put this one as well. I think I would put both of them, to be honest. It's definitely gonna be rewatchable just because it's fun to look at,
Mhm.
and it gave me everything I wanted. And I don't know, man. I think there's a lot of times when it's like you know it's gonna be for you, and it is. It's just such a me
This
thing.
is like, even from the poster of this film with the face hugger on the face and everything, I went, this is such a Sean movie. Like, everything about this is just Sean. Like, I saw that, I went, way to go, you're really digging in. And I know we've talked about this a lot, but to the Evil Dead 2013,
Yeah.
the bright red popping in your face,
Even
looks
if
really
you
good.
compose, I mean, even if we go like, let's just show. I mean, it's just it's just like, there's so much bullshit, right? There's so much bullshit when it comes to like marketing, and it's like, you look at Alien Resurrection, it's like, yeah, man, that's cool. I care about this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And they don't even have an actress that I know to sell it.
Oh, yeah,
Because it doesn't matter. I
Yeah.
just want to see amazing shit. And you did, so.
Yep.
It was awesome. Grayson,
Yeah.
I think one of the best parts about Candy Carnage, or Carnage Candy,
There you go.
is we're going to get to talk about horror movies.
Yeah, this was definitely something that's really cool. This is the first of many movies that we'll be talking about. Not all of our movies that we'll be reviewing will be movies that are out, or not out, but are coming out into theaters and stuff like that. We'll be doing some streaming stuff as well as some older films, and we'll be able to do this a lot. This is something that I enjoy. I know it's something that Sean definitely enjoys, and for us to be able to talk like we do to each other about horror movies and let y'all hear it is just a dream come true.
Yeah, it'll be so fun to do this about classics as well. And not all of these will be an hour long, but this was new and we loved it, and it was fun to talk about it for the first time as well. So,
and please go see this in theaters. Like, this is a very fun time. I don't think I really talked about this much, but the whole time I was watching this film, it flew by. It was such a great time that I lost track of time, and I wanted more. Like, whenever they get onto the ship at the very end, I was hoping there was still 30 minutes left, because I was so like locked into it. So go watch this movie. It is definitely a must see.
you can support content like this on patreon.com/hangtime, which is our father channel. You can go check out all the content over there, and you could have seen this early if you had subscribed and been a member, even with just our $5 or $10 tier reward. So make sure and go check out the Patreon and support content like this if you like it. Otherwise, go watch our review of Alien Romulus, or the movies that shaped Grayson.
Yep. We got those up. We've got the movies that shaped me, and you also have the movies that shaped Sean. So you'll be able to understand why our choices are the way that they are.
I don't know if I can fit that many in the annotations, Grayson.
Hey, go ahead and do it anyway. Try your best. He can do it. I have faith in him. Question is, do you?